Fine, good afternoon to you all students. Hi students, how are you? I hope you all are fine. So warm greetings to you all students. Welcome to our today's online class. Students, are you studying daily portion? So are you studying daily portion or not? So last class we have marked question answers for chapter 10. Isn't it? So 1 mark question, 2 mark question as well as 3 mark question. So we have marked. So I asked you to study. What are the portions I asked you to study yesterday? 1 mark question, 2 mark question as well as 3 mark question. So have you all studied? Studied or not, students? So please study daily portion. Don't waste time. Okay. So at last you won't get time for you to study. For that only again and again I am telling. Okay. So detailed question we need to mark in the further chapter 10. At last we can mark. Okay. So that question you should write in your paper or in a notebook. Okay. So today we are going to study about a new chapter, chapter 11. Okay. So what's the title of our chapter means? Database concepts. Okay. So in this chapter, so what are things you are going to study? You are going to study about what do you mean by database and what are the operations you are going to perform in the database. Understand? So for that, first you are going to study about what do you mean by database. Okay, so database we can say it is a collection of data. Okay, so database we can say as the collection of data. Okay, so what do you mean by collection of data? And so for example, take first itself I said one example. By if you understand the example means it is very easy for you to understand this database. Okay, so this database concept is this is new for you, I think it's so. Last year you won't study about this database. This year only you are going to study database. Okay. So take your class register. Okay. So each class will have separate register, isn't it? So what are the details will be there inside the register? So what are the details will be there inside the register? So first page. So you will leave one page, then take the first page means first page. So it will contain all the information about students. Take your class. So class, the 12A you take it. So totally 47 students are there. So the register will contain 47 students of 12A details. What are the details? Name, date of birth, phone number, address, then caste, everything. So all the details will be there in the register. Okay. So the register we are saying, no, the register, like that register we can say as a database. Understand now what do you mean by database? Database is a collection of data. So register contains the collection of what details? Details about the class 12A. Isn't it? So the 12A register will contain details about class students of 12A. So it is a collection of data of 12A students. Understand? So same thing only, database like a register we can say. So register we can access using manually we can access. What do you mean by access? You can take the information. So if you need the details of particular student means immediately we can open the register and see the roll number and take the details of particular student. That's a manual. Same thing, you are going to access the information from the system or from computer. Understand? So database is just like a register. You can able to store lot of or collection of data inside them. And also you can able to access the data from the computer. Okay. So and also the word database can also refer to some another one word called DBMS. Okay. DBMS. Have you seen it? DBMS? DBMS. What do you mean by DBMS? Means database management system. Okay, database management system. Okay, so for example, take example of a school. A school is there. To run the school properly, there will be a separate management will be there. So separate school management is there, isn't it? Likewise, a database is there. For example, take your class. So consider totally 12th class strength you take it. So 12th will be divided into divisions 12A, 12B, 12C, 12D, 12E, isn't it? So each class will have separate class teachers. So 12A class is managed by one class teacher. Then 12B class is managed by another one class teacher. Likewise, this database also managed by some management system. Okay, so there is a relation between database as well as database management system. Okay, so 12A class is there. So 12A is managed by one class teacher, isn't it? So there's a relation between the students of 12A and the class teacher, isn't it? Likewise, this database has a relation between database as well as database management system. The same example only they have given. So school register, take first I said the example, no, same, the school register. So your class register means what are the details it will have? Name, age, date of birth, everything. So same thing, you are going to enter the details in the system. Okay, so school register will consider the name of the database is a school register. Okay, so school register will contain details about all the student details. Okay, for example, I am telling if you are going to pay the fees in the office. Okay, so first what you will do, you will say your name. They will ask what's your name and what's your class. So this is familiar for you, isn't it? So you will say your name as well as class with division. Have you seen it? In the system, immediately they will take your name and you can pay the fees. How? So anyone can think how they are taking your name from the system? So already they are stored all the students' detail in a particular system or particular thing called as database. Understand now what do you mean by database? So already they have stored all the student details in one system. They are called, that is called what? Database. Okay. So whenever you are going to pay the fees, if you are saying your name, immediately they can access your name from the system. That is called database. Understand now what do you mean by database? Yes. So next thing is the data. What do you mean by data? So this and all important 2 more questions. What do you mean by database? What do you mean by data? What do you mean by information? These and all very, very important questions. Okay. So first, what do you mean by data? Okay. So the same question you have studied in 11th standard in the first volume. First chapter I think it's so. Yes. What do you mean by data and what do you mean by information? Are you remembering? Same only. Okay. So what do you mean by data means the definition is it's a raw fact stored in a computer. Okay. What do you mean by raw facts? Some meaningful things or okay, some meaningful words. That is called data. Okay. Some raw facts stored in a computer. For example, the same example you take. So your class register contain, if you are saying the class register means we can say that is a register is a database. Isn't it? Register fully. If you say the register means we can say the register is a database. So inside the register, what are the details will be there? Student name, roll number, then address, phone number, then everything will be there. Father name, isn't it? So student name separate, then roll number, then date of birth. So each and everything separately we can call this data. Understand what I mean by data? For example, student name is one data. Then date of birth is one data. Then phone number is another one data. Address is another one data. Okay. But each things will give some meaningful information. Understand what I mean by data? A register altogether we can say that's a database. So inside the register already you have studied. So database is a collection of datas. Understand? So collection of all the datas altogether build a database. Understand? So what are the data will be there in the register? Name, phone number, address, everything. Separate we can call this a data. Okay. Next, that's the first thing. Next, a data contain character, text, word or a number. For example, take the same example register. So register name you can written in your alphabets using alphabets, English language. Then phone number with numbers. Isn't it? Address, numbers is there. Then words are there, commas, symbols, everything is there, isn't it? So data may contain numbers, character, text, sentence, everything. Understand what do you mean by data? Important 2 more question. What do you mean by data? Data is a collection of or raw facts stored in a computer. It will give some meaningful information. So data also contain what are the things? Character, words or number. Understand? So see this example. See the example. So first one, 6006 DPI campus, SCRT, Chennai College Road. So first thing, 6006, that's one data. Then DPI campus is another one data. Then SCRT Chennai, that is another one data. Okay, so each and everything separately we are calling as an data. Understand? Yes. Next thing is a information. Okay, so information is a formatted data. Okay, what do you mean by formatted data? Means that will give some meaningful things from the data. Okay, so information will give, by seeing the information in itself we can analyze this is the meaning of this one. So same last example you have studied 6006 is separate data, DPA campus separate data. Okay, but information means by seeing itself you can able to identify this is the meaning of this one. So that is a formatted data. Okay, by seeing itself you can identify and you can utilize according to your way. The same example they are giving. See, SCRT College Road, DPA campus, Chennai 606. So altogether if you see means you know this is the address of the particular college or particular institutions, isn't it? Separately we can say SCRT one data, College Road is one data, DPA campus, each and everything is separate data. But altogether if you are read means you know this is the address of the particular institution. So that is called information. Understand the difference between data and information? Data means separate each and everything. So you consider the same example of your register. The name, date of birth, address, everything separately we can call data. Altogether. For example, altogether they asked to write a details of a student of roll number 1. So roll number, you immediately see the register and roll number 1 name. This is the name. This is the phone number. This is the address. So this full information, that's the full details will give informations. Only name alone you are taking, that is one data. Understand the difference between data and information? Understand? Yes. Next is a database. Database already you have studied the same thing only. What do you mean by database? This is the definition for database. Okay. So definition, repository collection. What do you mean by repository? Repository means a big or huge collection. Okay, not a small. For example, so register example I said. So register example for 12th lot of divisions are there. So only 12A register means that is a one collection of data. Then 12B next collection of data. 12C next collection. Altogether full 12th register altogether it is we can say a repository collection. That is a huge collection. Separately 12A, 12B, 12C means that is a small collection of data. But altogether 12th, all the student details are storing in one database. That is called repository collection. Okay. Next, so that data you can able to access easily. So the same fees details I said, no, if you are going to pay the fees, if you say the name and class division, immediately they will show your names or immediately they will take your names and you can pay the fees. So you can easily able to access and manage. What do you mean by manage? So all the student details are managed in a database and updated. What do you mean by updated? So you might have know about this, heard about this word update. So in your mobile phones also some software you have installed means it will ask for update. What do you mean by updation? So new things will updated. So normally one word people will say no. So you should update your knowledge. What do you mean by update? Based on this growth, based on the growth of our development, we should update our knowledge. So likewise, the database also, lot of informations are there. So for example, your names are storing in school database. So you are paying the fees for example, I am selling, you have paid the fees for first term. Okay, so they will put tick mark or they will put some symbols for there. You have paid the fees for mid-term. So some students are not paid the fees for mid-term. In that place, they will put not paid. So that is updated. Understand now? So we can say database is a software. Okay. So but the software needs to run means you should provide separate hardware. Okay. So combination of hardware as well as software. Understand about database? Yes. Next thing is a database management system. So what do you mean by database management system? Already I said about database management system. A school will be there means is separate school management will be there. So class will be there means separate class teacher will be there. What's the use of this one? To manage. School management will manage the school staff. A class teacher will manage class students, isn't it? Likewise, a database is there means database is managed by some person or some software is called which one? Database management system. Understand? So here, so DB, this database management system is also one software. Okay, by using this software you can able to create. What do you mean by create? Newly you can create or you can define and manipulate database. Okay, for example I am telling, for example in your class 47 students are there totally. Okay, so one more student need to add in your register. Okay, one more the students details need to add in your register. That's the 48th student, consider. Okay, so what you will do? Put the number as a 48. Then you will write a name, database, isn't it? That's the same thing only. This database management also you can able to create. Create means the same example I said, no, a new student means you can create a new detail for the student. You can define. Define means you are writing the details of the student. And manipulate. Manipulate means you are keeping the details with this register, that is manipulate. Understand? So all the details you can able to store. Where you are storing in the system? In the database. Process. What do you mean by process? Process means all the student details will be stored and whenever you need you can able to access the data easily. Understand? Understand what you mean by database management system? It is a software. So you can able to create, define and manipulate database and allow the user to. Who is the user? Who is using the database? That is called, that's the user. So a particular user can able to store all the details. Then whenever he or she needs, he can able to access the details and analyze the detail easily. Okay. So this is the one interface tool between DBMS and the user. Okay. Sorry, this is the interface tool between database as well as user. Okay. For example, a school management will be there. Consider school management as well as a student. A student needs to put some information, student needs to move some information to school management. So the student needs to say to a class teacher or either here the student needs to say to our management. So if the student is say to the class teacher means, so what the class teacher will do? Class teacher will say that information to management. So who is the intermediary person between the student and the management? Teacher. Similarly, a database is there as well as a user is there. So user is going to access the details from the database. So this database management system is the intermediary person between the user as well as database. Understand? So in this database you can able to store the data as well as based on that you can update the data. Okay. So this database also you can provide protection and security. Security is very, very important thing, isn't it? So, for example, all the student details are stored in our school system. So, they will give some passwords or in. For example, consider if you are having Wi-Fi. Most of the mobiles having Wi-Fi. So, what you will do? So, you will put password for the Wi-Fi. What's the purpose of putting password? Only you can able to access the net. So, other persons unable to access the net. If the person knows your password means only they can able to access. Why? So if for example you have 1 GB data per day, you have 1 GB data. So if you are not providing passwords for them, Wi-Fi means other persons can also use with the 1 GB data, isn't it? So protection is very, very important. Likewise, the database also protection and security is very, very important. In database, you can able to store details of multiple users. Multiple, whether the class register will have the details of only one student? No. So the details of lot of students. That likewise database also you can able to use with multiple users. Understand? So this some of the examples they are giving of database software. So what are the examples for DBMS softwares means? Fonts Pro DBase. This and all important. One more questions. Examples of DBMS software. So what are the examples? Fonts Pro as well as DBase. Understand? Yes. Next one, characteristics of database management system. Very, 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 very important question. Important 5-mark question. Characteristics of database management system. Understand? Yes. Listen carefully. First character is data stored in tables. Okay. So, first itself I am telling data are stored in database. So, in register, how you will write your name? Just like a table, isn't it? Just like each student details will are written in one row. First row. So, first in the register, take a register means first page, put the number 1 and the first row is filled with the first student detail. Name of the student, then roll number, then date of birth, then phone number, then caste, then community, then address, everything. First row. Then second row, second student. Third row, third student. Isn't it? That's a format for writing register. Same way only. Database also. Data you should store all the data in the form of tables. Understand? Very, very important question. So in database, the data are stored in tables. So without table, you can't able to store the data directly into the database. So all the details. For example, I said no, if you are going to pay the fees, so if you are immediately saying the roll number and your name, immediately they will take the name from the system. How? So for example, 12th A means 12th A class details will be stored in 12th A table. Then 12B class details will stored in separate 12B table. 12C class students will be details will stored in separate 12C table. Understand? Likewise, each and every data is stored in separate tables. Understand? So, each table is created inside the database. What do you mean by database? Database is a collection of data. For example, 12th full, for example, take the one database name called 12. Understand? 12th is a one database. So, inside 12, they are created separate database. For 12A separate, 12B separate, 12C separate, 12D likewise. So, each 12A class for separate table, 12B class for separate table. Okay. So, each 12th is a database. So, inside the 12th database, you have create tables inside separately, 12A, 12B. Understand what do you mean by database and tables? So, this database management has the relation between tables. Okay. So, without tables, you can't able to store the data. So, by using the tables only, by using tables, you can store the data. So, using this database management software, you can able to access the details from the table. Understand the first thing. What's the first character? Data stored in tables. What are the things you have studied here? So, in data, if you have stored any data in the database means you can't able to store the data directly, but using tables, you can able to store the data. Okay. So, if a database is there means inside the database, you should store using tables. Okay. So, database management is the interface or intermediary person between the tables and the database. Understand? That's the first characteristic. Now itself, please study. Listen carefully. Second one is reduce redundancy. What do you mean by redundancy? Redundancy is nothing but repetition. Okay? Repetition. For example, you are writing your class students mark. Consider. Okay? For example, you are writing your class students mark. Quarterly exam marks. Take it. To quarterly exam marks you are writing. So, manually you can make mistakes, isn't it? So, for example, by seeing a row by row, you are writing the mark. First, maths mark. Then, first Tamil. Then, English. Then, by unknowingly, you can write the same mark 2 times. That is possible. Manually, it is possible, isn't it? Errors happen. So, while you are writing the marks or while you are entering the marks, same marks you have written 2 or 3 times. So, unknowingly you have written 2 or 3 times. That is called redundancy. Okay, that means repetition. Understand? So, for this redundancy, they are telling in a book. So, in olden days, if you are taking the hard disk, each and every computer will have hard disk, isn't it? What's the purpose of hard disk? So, what's the purpose of hard disk? To store the details, isn't it? That's a storage space. So, in computer, all the details will stored in a particular memory. What's the memory? Hard disk is the one memory, secondary memory. Okay. So, in your phone, if you are saying means to memories will be there. What are the two memories? I've seen internal storage is there as well as memory card is there. So internal storage is the phone memory and the memory card is the secondary memory. Likewise, so in a phone you can able to store the details either in internal storage or in SD card, isn't it? Same way in computers will also have hard drives. In the hard drives only you will store all the details. Okay, so in olden days if you need to buy the hard drive means the rate of the hard disk will be very high. Okay, that is too expensive, that the rate of the hard disk becomes very high. Okay, but so you consider in the hard disk only all the details you are storing. The space of the hard disk also olden days very less. So the same details if you are writing unknowingly, you are writing 2 or 3 times, it will take too much of space. For example, I am telling you are going to copy one film. You are going to copy one film. So the capacity of the film, for example, I am telling the capacity of the film will take 1 GB. Okay, what's the capacity of the film? 1 GB. What's the size of the film? 1 GB. So if you are copying the film in your internal storage, consider internal storage. So unknowingly you have copied 2 times. 1 time means it will take 1 GB. 2 times if you have copied means how many GBs it will take? 2 GB. So totally your phone memory will be 8 GB. Consider your phone memory will be 8 GB. So you have copied a film of our 1 GB. Unknowingly you have copied one more time. So it will take 1 more GB space, isn't it? So that's a repetition. Likewise, if you are copied means your space will becomes fill easily. So likewise, here database also by manually you can able to enter the details 2 or unknowingly you can enter the made errors by entering the details 2 or 3 times. That is called redundancy. But so if you fill the details like this in olden days, it is very tough for to buy the hard disk. That's the rate is very high. But nowadays no problem. The rate becomes very low compared to the olden days. But to avoid the redundancy in DBMS, we are using a technique called normalization. Okay, so to avoid this repetition of data or to avoid the redundancy, you are using which one? Normalization. Okay, so normalization means it will divide the given data into different things. Okay, so you can avoid the repetition. The repetition becomes minimum. So which technique is used to avoid repetition? Normalization. What's the other name of repetition? Redundancy. Understand 2 characteristics you have studied. What are they? Data stored in tables as well as reduced redundancy. Third one is data consistency. Okay, so what do you mean by consistency? So you are entering the data and you are entering the details daily. Okay, for example, you are going to enter the mark of your class students. So only one time only you are going to enter the mark. So quartile exam separate mark will be there. Then midterm exam separate mark. Then half-yearly exam separate mark. So that is a live data. Live data means so in a year you need to enter the or update the marks based on the examination. If 2 examination is there means 2 times you need to enter the mark. 3 exam is there means 3 times. 4 means 4 times. So each times you need to 4 time means first time you should enter the mark, then second time, third time, fourth time. So 4 times you need to update the details. But how many times if you are entering, whether the details of the students will change? No, that is consistency. Whatever details you are updating, but already you have entered the detail, that will become same. Only your entering details are updated. Okay, so that is called data consistency. So you can able to add the details. Okay, you can able to add the details and also you can able to update the detail, but consistency becomes the same. What do you mean by consistency? So the details, for example, you are entering the marks of the student, but the name won't get changed, roll number won't get changed. Only the marks are getting different for each examination, but the date and roll number will be name and roll number will be same. That is called data consistency. That it will maintain consistency. Understand that the third characteristics. Fourth one is support multiple user and concurrent access. Okay. So what do you mean by multiple users? So multiple users means more than one user. So for this also, there's one example in our school I am telling. So in an office, you have seen lot of systems, isn't it? So you can pay the fees in 2 or 3 persons. For example, 3 person is there means, so you can able to pay the fees with to 3 persons. 5 students will pay the fees to first person. Second 5 students will pay to next person. Listen, at the same time, the 3 persons are accessing the details from the database. Isn't it or not? So same 12 students. So at the same time, you are going to pay the fees. 20 students, you are going to pay the fees. Consider. At the same time, 20 students, you are going to pay the fees. So first 10 students are standing near to the first person. Second 5 students are standing in the second person. Next 5 students are standing in the third person. But all the students are in the class, same class, 12A. So at the same time, the 3 persons are accessing the database of which database? 12A. Understand about multiple users? Database is same only, but that is concurrent access. At the same time. Same time you are going to pay the fees. So at the same time, 3 persons are accessing the database of 12A students. The 3 persons are, if you are saying the details to 3 persons, so 3 persons will pay your fees and give the bill. Understand, that is called what? Support multiple user and concurrent access. Understand now? Yes. But here also needs to provide data consistency. What do you mean by data consistency? So the 3 persons are working in the same database, but the details entering is become same. So 3 persons are working means 3 persons, whether they will change your name? No. Your name and class will be the same. That is data consistency. Understand? That's the fourth point. What's the fourth point? Support multiple user and concurrent access. At the same time, you can able to access more than 1 or 3 persons can access. That is at the same time access. That is concurrent access. Multiple user can access. Okay. So they can easily insert any details. That is, if you are paying the fees means they will insert the fees details. Update. Okay. Insert the detail and delete also. For example, if a particular student is leaving or till after exam, the student is studying here. After the after exam, the student is leaving from your class. Okay. So you can delete the student detail from the database. Another one, if a new student is joining in your class, at that time you can update the student details. Insert. Understand? Yeah. Then fifth one is query language. Query language, important thing. What do you mean by query language? So you have studied about database and database management system. So already I am telling you are accessing the details from database. So you are updating the details from database. You are inserting the details into database. So by doing all these things, you need some programming language. Okay. So in database, a programming language we are calling as in which language? Query language. Okay. So in normally we used to say programming language, isn't it? So last year also you have studied C++. This year you are studying about Python. But similarly in database you are saying as a which language? Query language. Okay. So using this queries only, you can able to insert the data. You can able to delete. If a new student is there means you can insert the new student details. So the later you will study this query language in to our 13th chapter, I think. So you are going to study detailed about query language. Okay. Yes. So using this query language only, you can able to insert new details. For example, new student is joining your class means you need to insert one more student details. One student is leaving from your class. What do you need to do? Delete the details of the student. Then if you are if you are entering the sum marks of your data, so you should update the database. So using this query language only, you can able to insert the details, update the details as well as delete the details. This is the fifth characteristics. Understand? Yes. Next thing is the security. So already, I have taught about this security. So each and everything security is very, very important. So nowadays, even your mobile phones also, most of them will provide security. Using what are the security options is there? Passwords is there, pattern lock is there, fingerprint is there, face recognition is there. Isn't it? Lot of security options is there. Likewise, database also, you should provide security. What's the meaning and use of security? If you provide passwords or anything, so unauthorized person can't able to access the details. Only the person who is owning the, for example, our school database will have the details about Bethlehem school students. Whether the persons from some other schools can able to access our school details? No. Why? Because they will provide some security for our database. Only our Bethlehem school staffs or Bethlehem school particular staffs can able to access the details. Understand? Other school cannot be able to access the details of our school students. Why? They will provide some security features. Understand? So security is very what's the use of security? So it will provide secure for the what are the data you have stored in the database. It will give security or secure for the data. So what's the use of security? So avoid accessing from unauthorized person. Okay. So if you need to create the user account means, so if you are first itself you are creating user account means that different access permissions. Okay. So what do you mean by access permission? For example, in your mobile, one folder will be there. You can able to lock your folder also, isn't it? So what's the way you are providing lock? Only you can able to see the data. If your friend needs to see the particular folder means, if you give the password for that folder means only your friend can able to open, isn't it? That's a restricting access. What do you mean by restricting? Only you can able to open. So if you are giving your passwords to your friend means only your friend can able to access. Understand? That is a security. Next is the DBMS support transactions. Okay. So what do you mean by transaction? Bank transaction. You might have heard about the word bank transaction. So transaction, transferring some amount from one account to another account. That is called transaction. Likewise, so here also lot of already you studied database. The details will be stored in form of tables, isn't it? So you can able to handle the data or manage the data. So who is handling this management and handling? Database management system. Okay. So here multi-threading concept is used. What do you mean by multi-threading means? At the same time 2 or 3 processes can run. Okay. So for example, say the database, take the name of the database is 12. So inside the 12th database, separate tables will be there for 12A, 12B, 12C, 12D, 12E. So at the same time, 12A students are accessing 12A class details. 12B students are accessing 12B. 12C students are accessing 12C. Okay, so that is called multi-threading. At the same time, 2 or 3 or 4 database data are accessed at the same time. That is called multi-threading. So it will allow the user to handle and manage data integrity. Okay, that means the data won't get changed, but at the same time you can able to access the details of the data. Understand? Very important 5 mark question. Characteristics of a database management system. How many characteristics you have studied? Totally 7 characteristics. Very important. So what are the characteristics? First, data stored in tables. All the details in data DBMS are stored in tables. Next, reduce redundancy. So in database, the entering details won't get repeat. So if to avoid repetition, you are using a concept called normalization. Next, data consistency. So each time you can able to update the details, but the data, so what are the already stored data won't get changed. You should maintain consistency. Next, support multiple users at the same time. 2 or 3 users can able to access the database. Then query language. If you are accessing the details of the particular database, you should need some programming language. In database, we are calling the programming language called which language? Query language. Okay. Next one is security. Each and everything security is very must. What's the use of security? It will avoid accessing from unauthorized person. Only the person who is handling that person can able to access. Then DBMS support transactions. You can able to transact. That means you can able to take the information from one table to another table at the same time. That is transaction. Very important question. Understand? Yes. Next one is advantages of DBMS. This is also very important 3 mark question. Advantages of DBMS. Okay. So what's the first advantage is segregation of application program. So what do you mean by segregation? Segregation means division, divide. Okay. For example, altogether 12th student details are stored in one table. Okay. 12th, all the 12th student details are stored in one table. Okay. So in 12th also separate divisions will be there, isn't it? Maths group is there, biology group is there, sorry, maths computer, maths biology, accountancy, then science. 4 groups are there. So if you stored all the student details in the same table, is it very easy for you to identify? For example, immediately they are asking the details of a particular student from science group. But all the student details are stored in one table 12. But that is easy for you to find? No. So to avoid that one, you are dividing, segregating. For example, computer students or details are in one table. Then science group students are in separate table, science group. Then maths biology students are in separate group. Accountancy students are in separate table. That is called segregation. Okay. So to avoid the time consumption, so you are dividing the tables into smaller based on that table. That is called segregation. So segregation of application program. Understand? Next. That's the first advance. Minimal data duplication or data redundancy. Already you have studied about data redundancy. Isn't it? So to avoid data redundancy, which technique you are using? Normalization. Isn't it? So using this DBM concept, you can avoid redundancy. What do you mean by redundancy? Same details can't able to. So unknowingly you are typing the details 2 or 3 times. By using this technique, you can avoid that redundancy. Then easy retrieval of data using query language. So all the details are stored in tables. If you need to access the student detail, means you should use one language called which language? Query language. By using this language, you can be able to access the details very easily. Okay. Then reduce time and maintenance. Using this DBMS, the time consumption is very less. Okay. So for that only first I said, so 12 student detail, all the student details are stored in one table, means it is very tough for it to identify. So you are segregating. So it separate table means immediately you can take the details. So using this concept, you can reduce the time also, time consumption. And also you can able to easily maintain. So what are the advantages? Segregation, then avoid redundancy, easily you can retrieve using query language, reduce the time consumption. Understand? So today, so I have taught about, okay, one more question you should write in the last chapter, no detail. Tomorrow's class or after the completion of this chapter, altogether you can write the detailed question. So if you have guide, means please study from that one. Okay. So today, so I have taught, what are the things I have taught? So what are the portions today you need to study means, what is data? Okay, data from here to till here. This is one of the important 2 mark questions. Then information from here to here. Then database. Okay, these 3 questions plus this characteristics of database management system. Very important 5 mark question. Then advantages of DBMS. What are the portions I have taught today are very important. So please study after completion of this session. So what DBMS, what do you mean by database, what do you mean by data, what do you mean by information, advantages of DBMS, then characteristics of this DBMS. 5 questions I gave as a homework for you. So you should study today. Thank you students. Remain you can continue in the next class. Thank you.